Welcome to Moments with Marianne. I'm so delighted we're spending this time here today. We have a very inspiring guest coming right up who is Richard Reed. And many of you in the UK and Europe know Richard. He's an entrepreneur, philanthropist, and co-founder of Innocent Drinks. He also co-founded Innocent Foundation and Art Everywhere. And he's here today to share with us his new book, If I Could Tell You Just One Thing. Now, Richard's book curates invaluable wisdom from 50 of today's most remarkable, diverse, and influential voices in an engaging collection of profiles. Paired with a specifically commissioned pen and ink portrait, each essay is illuminating. So let's welcome to the show, Richard.
Hey there. All the way live from London.
Live from London. Hey, you've got to love that. Well, and there's lots of other great things happening in London that we're going to talk about in just a minute. But my goodness, your book was just released. So, hey, congratulations.
Thank you very much. Yeah, and in fact has now been turned into a TV series as well, coming to the small screen near you in America. Yeah.
Oh, it's going to be I can't wait to hear more about that. My goodness.
It's coming out on YouTube Red, and it's been presented by Priyanka Chopra, who's the Bollywood actress turned Hollywood actress, philanthropist, Miss World winner, and general all-round awesome person that's going around and asking people, if you could tell me just one thing about how to best change the world, what would that be?
Well, I can't wait to see that. How exciting. And I'm sure our listeners are going to be just waiting for that as well. We'll of course, have more information on where they can find all that great and the great new series that you're doing. Congratulations.
Thank you. It's exciting.
What a huge thing that is, especially from this book. And I can see why it brings people to a point where they're wanting to ask deeper questions about their life.
Yes, I mean, the whole principle of the book is that I've been lucky through my career in business and politics and charity and art in the UK to get in the room with some truly remarkable people. And I always had a view of, rather than ask them for a selfie, I'm going to ask them for their single best piece of advice. Because they were all people that have either done something remarkable or something remarkable has happened to them. Everyone from President Clinton to the Dalai Lama, via Bill Gates, via Marina Abramovich or Judi Dench, or people from sports, science, spirituality, business, the arts, and also people that have just been through really massive experiences, an Auschwitz survivor, an Afghan vet that had three of his limbs blown off, people that have either been through the best of times or the worst of times, people who've either done something remarkable has happened to them, and ask them all to reflect on their life and those times, and if they could pass on their single best piece of advice to the next generation, what would that advice be? And the book is that. It's a series of short-form essays that collate together both the experience of me encountering these people and their single best piece of advice.
Well, I'm so glad you're able to capture all these gems for us, because it does help people to propel into a different way of thinking. And one of the things that I would love for you to share with us is your background, because I know you're hugely popular in the UK, and I'd love to learn more about not just the work that you're doing, because I know you have a little investment in a drink company, but you also do some good with that.
Yeah, so my backstory is, I'm a guy that grew up in a very sort of simple but loving family. My mum was a nurse. My dad started out as a bus conductor for the local bus company. Through them sort of going out working nights, they paid me to have a decent education. I got to a good university, and at that university I met two excellent people became my very best friends. And after university, the three of us set up a business together. And it was a smoothie business. And we called it Innocent. And that business we started literally from a market stall where we were selling bottles of smoothie at the weekend while we still had our regular jobs. And at that stall one weekend, we put up a big sign above the stall that said, should we give up our jobs to make these smoothies? And had a bin that said yes on the front and a bin that said no, and asked people to vote with the empty bottles. And at the end of the weekend, we'd made a deal with each other that if the yes bin was full, we'd go in the next day and resign and set up the business properly. And that yes bin was full. In fact, there was just a few in the no bins that our parents confessed having put there years later because they worried about us giving up our jobs. But we then resigned and set up this business again, literally from just selling juice in bottles to our local shops. But over 15 years, we managed to grow it. So now it's actually the biggest juice brand in all of Western Europe. It's bigger than Tropicana. It sells 5 million bottles of juice a day. And in the process of doing it all, we tried to make sure that not only was the commitment to make healthy products, because everything's nothing but fruit, nothing added, nothing taken away, but we built the world's most sustainable supply chain for that business, and we give over 10% of the profits to charity. And we made everyone in the business shareholders. Every employee got equity in the business. And we've just tried to do it as a form of conscious capitalism. We're still a business that was all about chasing profit and growth, but it was very much, in addition to that, health, sharing wealth, making sure that we leave a more gentle environmental footprint. And it's, for me personally, it's been a bit of a fairy tale because it worked, and I did it with my two best friends. So there's not many people alive right now that feel more grateful and blessed than I do.
Well, and what a beautiful story. I mean, we love hearing about people taking something that becomes a passion and thriving with it. And not only that, but you help communities thrive as well. And so why don't you share with us a little bit about the foundation that's attached with the drinks that you do?
Yeah, so as I said, we made a commitment to give a minimum of 10% of profits to charity. In fact, over our tenureship of the business, we gave 60% of the profits to charity. So we really did run it for social purpose as much as we ran it for sort of private gain. And it had a very simple remit. We were there and we exist to help the world's hungry. So we have been putting money into essentially different programs across the world, but where, and this is increasing our figures, where acute malnutrition amongst children is the most serious. It is a situation that causes 16 million deaths a year. Every single one of those is unnecessary. Every single one of those can be rectified by just getting better nutrition and better food out to kids when they're needed. We've run a pilot scheme recently that tackles the way acute malnutrition is dealt with in the field, and it's become so popular and so successful and so effective and massively improving the survival rates. It's become recently a new global standard taken on by the World Health Organization. And that's the kind of thing that we get excited by, that you can, as an entrepreneur, be, whether you're working within charity or business, that commitment to back someone with a new idea, with a new way of doing something that could transform the world is the kind of thing that we want to be doing. So we've done it a small way in business. We've now done it, I would say, in a more material way in charity. And I guess the book, again, it's a very, very, very modest contribution, but the whole purpose of the book is to capture the wisdom of our age and make it available to people. And all the money, all the, the writer's profits go to charity to fund social inclusion and mentoring charities. So it's really trying to close the loop to help people that don't necessarily have access to the great advice and the best role models in life get a bit closer to it. And I guess if that's my sort of ethos, it's there, that if we can all just help each other out a bit, if we can all just collaborate, we're going to build a better future that we can all can share.
Oh gosh, wouldn't that be a better world? I'll sign up for that every day of the week. Yeah. And your book is a great way to help.
It's happening right here, right now. It's all part of it.
I love it. Absolutely love it. Well, and so to talk about your book, if I could tell you just one thing, when you decided to get this book, to write this book, how did you decide on the people that you were going to kind of interview and get that one thing from them?
Well, there was just several things going on there, really. One was, it was very important to us and everyone involved in the project that we made it as diverse as we could do. So it's 50% men, 50% women, people of all race, creed, color, gender, sexuality. Everyone's represented as best as we could. Secondly, there had to be people that had done something remarkable or had something remarkable that happened to them. We're also clear-sighted. Books like this sell better if you recognize some of the names. So we made sure we got some of the most well-known people in the world. As I said, it's President Clinton, Dalai Lama, Bill Gates. I mean, we're not struggling to having some bigger A-list names in there. But the other half of the book is also people that you never would have heard of. But they have done something or achieved something or experienced something truly remarkable. And it's really about the best of times and the worst of times. There's one guy that's in there, you won't have heard of him, but he's a guy that he just suffered such extreme sexual abuse from the age of 5 till 10. For 5 years of it as a kid. To this day, he's still got a titanium rod in his spine because he was so aggressively raped every week for 5 years by his gym teacher. And he has got such a unique experience on life and channeled all that unbelievable trauma and tragedy and found the only way that he could get respite from the demons was through music, and has channeled that of the darkest possible things that humans can really do to each other. He's now a world-famous concert pianist, and that became his sort of aperture for dealing with some of the absolute, travesty of what being going younger. So there's a guy called Terry Waite. It may not be a name that means much to your American listeners, but in Britain he's an absolute hero because he was a guy that went to negotiate the release of hostages as a representative of the British church. So a guy that was non-political, couldn't be more the embodiment of peace, and just went to negotiate the release of terrorists, and then himself got taken into captivity for 5 years and was put into a windowless underground cell and beaten and tortured and left in solitary confinement other when he's being tortured. And 5 years later, when he was eventually released, came out and went straight back into doing the same thing he'd been doing that got him into that situation in the first place. And when he spoke about it all, he said, yes, there was something about the experience that was a little bit lonely. And that was like the most modest understatement I've ever heard of anyone. And I think only a British person could be that understated to say after you've been locked in a room underground for 5 years, held hostage, you say, yes, it was a little bit isolating, then it just goes to show. But the fact he came out, and to this day, and just 20 years later, he's still actively involved in helping families and people that have been taken hostage. So it's just an incredible collection where it really makes you realize that human beings, we're a really, really great species. I mean, yes, sometimes we do crazy stuff and bad stuff, but generally, overall, we're really, really good as a species, and we're really nice and helpful. And I tell you, every single person meant in the book, and as I said, some of them were the biggest names in the world people never heard of, but they were all just absolutely lovely, really lovely people that really engaged with this project to pass on a bit of wisdom to the next generation and to raise a bit of money for charity in the meantime.
Well, I really appreciate you writing this book because I think there's a feeling that we're in such a time of turmoil, and there's lots of negativity, at least here in the U.S. I hear this all the time from different people. And to have something that brings about such a positive impact can really help people adjust their focus more on what's more important, and I think that's just it's so timely to have your book at this time. I mean, I know it's an amazing book that's flying off the shelves, and people just can't wait to get their own copy, and I can easily see why.
Well, it's really interesting you say that because, we wrote this as a book and published it in Britain, and it got picked up by pretty much every single publishing market there is worldwide. There's the Taiwanese version, the South Korean version, the Greek version, the German version, the Chinese version, the Latin American version, and of course, massively importantly, the US version. And for each of those countries, we put in some local heroes as well as kept in the international heroes and the big stories. And I think, as you say, I'm an eternal optimist. I fundamentally believe that humans are 99% good. There's a little bit of bad, and there's 1% people are a bit all over the place, but we do good things. Not always, but mainly. And I don't buy in. I believe that we're getting better, not worse. And there's some big issues at the moment. Of course, there are some massive issues, but I wouldn't bet against the species as being able to get through it and get to a better place. It's what we've always done. And I think we're going to continue to hopefully surprise and delight ourselves as we go forwards. But the more that we can just come from this most basic, and I know this sounds really naive and really sort of, overly simplistic, but it's also fundamentally true. There is, at the end of the day, just one planet with a set of finite resources, and we've all got to live on it. And the more that we can just start from the principle of, if we all want a good future, then we are just going to need to learn to share it a little bit more. And it is through that collaboration and sharing and help each other, not only do we enrich our own lives and actually enjoy the 90 years of whatever we get on this planet, we ourselves enjoy it more, but of course it makes it better for others too. And it's so, rather than it be a sort of zero-sum game where I've got to take something of yours so I can have it myself, the more that we actually contribute and give and help each other, the more that we all get. And it's a really beautiful sort of bit of an algorithm of the species, as it were. And the more that we inhabit it and use that and understand that and do that, the better it gets for all of us.
I love that. And I think that that's something that, people are craving for. They're wanting to hear more of that. They want to have more of that in their daily lives. And so I, again, applaud you for writing this book, because I think it's I enjoy it, and I know, the people I've talked to, everyone, they love it. They love the inspiration that comes from this. When you were doing your interviews with all these wonderful people, both, celebrities, politicians, people who are in different arenas, and those who have done just phenomenal things, what was one that really touched you?
Wow. I mean, it was an incredibly enriching experience for me as the guy meeting all these people and then listening to them and hearing them. And I've got many answers to that question. I'll try and be brief. But look, I spent 5 days traveling around Africa with President Clinton, literally traveling in what they called the bubble, where you're in his plane and you're in his car and his entourage, seeing him hour by hour relentlessly going after to help charities that they were supporting. It was way beyond any other human being I see. There was hours spent relentlessly, always on in the sort of the dusty, searing heat of sub-Saharan Africa. And that was a pretty inspiring thing to see. This guy really, really does sort of practice what he preaches. But then on a much quieter but sort of beautiful moment for me personally was, I don't know how much this made the sort of the US news, but back in 2016, Britain made what for me personally was a terrible decision to leave the EU. And it was something that I had played a large part in the campaign for us to stay in the EU, because to me it was the EU is our friends, and it's about collaborating and opportunity and freedom. And it just seemed to me such a regressive step to say, no, we want to come out of it and turn our back. And the result came out on the 24th of June, and I'd been up all night, and with the results to come in, and obviously hadn't gone the way we wanted. Now, I plus 48% of the population was feeling very upset. 52% of the population, however, feeling happy. But I went to interview a woman called Judi Dench. I don't know if you know, she's the actress that she's played every Shakespearean role you could think of. She's been more famous recently because she was she played M in all the James Bond movies and was the first woman to do so. And she's a national treasure and just a gorgeous, warm, lovely, mischievous woman that I'd never met before. And so I was a bit nervous going in to see her. And I found her in that morning when I was feeling at my most raw and upset. And she was sat in a garden waiting for me in the sunlight. And she was crying. And she was as upset as I was. And on that moment, it wasn't a writer meeting a famous person. It was just two fellow citizens sharing their grief for what we thought we had lost, which was, to sort of turn our back on our, some of our closest friends. And it was a very, very healing, lovely process. We ended up spending 3 hours together and ended up getting out a bottle of champagne and having a bit of a drink. So I left feeling so much better than I had arrived, and that's all thanks to her and her sort of warmth and generosity. And I hope in the piece it captures a bit of that, her just an unbelievably sort of generous spirit.
Mm-hmm. She seems like such a lovely person to spend that time with her on such a personal level where it like you're saying, it's not about, interviews. It's just humans, mourning something that has impacted a nation greatly. I mean, God, yeah. What a heartfelt moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-mm-mm. Well, and I mean,
I tell you, I want for the next volume. I tell you, mm-hmm. I really want for the next volume is our new princess, Meghan. I think the fact, her and Harry, Prince Harry and Princess Meghan getting together, to me is just the best thing that has happened to this country in an awful long time. I was so proud. Yeah. I'm so proud that we can, she is now officially a member of our royal family. It's just, the royal family in Britain for me is something to be massively respected. I recently got, awarded from them, which was lovely. And I understand a little bit just how hard they work. And people think it's just a life of privilege. And it's not. It's a life of absolute serving your country. But it has been an institution which has been somewhat old-fashioned and backward-facing a little. And Prince Harry marrying Meghan, I think, is just the greatest advert for beautiful friendships and love and the relationship between Britain and America and taking a more modern, fresh, open, inclusive society. It's just the best. And to me, not that I know them, but as much as you can ever tell, they seem like they're genuinely in love, and it's just a lovely, magical moment to see them getting married.
Oh my goodness! To be a fly on the wall when you have that interview.
Okay, I'll give you the exclusive.
Yeah, well, you know what? I was one of the people that, because here in the U.S. it was pretty early, so I was up early watching it and just loved every moment of it. From just the beauty of it all, the diversity of it all. Yeah, and there's something about it too. She's always been a strong woman, even at a young age. And when her father was unable to walk her down the aisle, she walked herself down the aisle. And of course, Prince Charles gave her away. But it was such a moving moment to see all of that and to see the love. Yeah. And also, I know they came out recently with her coat of arms and just what that means, a combination of, they brought in some of the red poppies from California into that. And also, there's quills in regards to speaking and just the purpose that she's going to move forward with in life. And both her and Harry together, it's going to be just absolutely amazing. I can't wait. Can't wait to see that.
Yeah.
So,
it was a big story in the U.S., right?
Oh, it was huge. Yeah. It was on all networks. It played, for like a week. You can get the reruns. It was on all networks all day long. It was beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Yeah, and and it offered so I mean, it was great seeing the Chicago pastor up there speaking, and the choir.
Just
yeah, and then the combination of it all was just absolutely, it just melts your heart,
Yeah.
So, yeah, your book too. Well, my goodness. Yeah, I can't wait to hear about that when that's ready.
Yeah, okay. Well, you know who's on the cover.
Well, and so, Richard, I mean, we're not going too much into your book because we want people to pick up their own copy. If I could tell you just one thing, and I tell you it's well worth, every dime you spend on it. I've gotten so much inspiration from the book myself personally. So where can people connect with you, learn more about the book, and also to be part of your community?
Well, excuse me, there is the website for the book, which gives you a little bit more information about it, which is www.ifICouldTellYouJustOneThing.com. You can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Richard Reed, which is REED, Inno, INNO, at Richard Reed Inno. You can pop by anytime you're in London for a nice cup of tea. If you're overseeing the Queen, then you should come in and see me too, and we can chat.
Without a doubt.
If I could ask people just one thing, it would be buy the book, give it as a gift. The money's going to charity, and I think it's got stuff inside it's enriching. And also, I've made it as best I can just the easiest book to read. It's 60 short chapters, each with a lovely picture of the person. As my friend said, it's the perfect toilet book. And I think she meant that in a good way. But you can just pick it up at any point, just flick through for 5-10 minutes, just get a bit of insight and inspiration from someone who's done something or experienced something truly remarkable.
Well, I would actually call this a perfect coffee table book because you can
That's a bit better, yeah. Let's go with that. That's a better. Looks a bit nicer. I'll take that, yeah.
Well, and for people that are looking to learn more about your foundation, they can go to innocentfoundation.org and they can make donations there, correct?
If they like, yeah. I mean, why not? And if they know any charities that are looking for funding that meets the criteria, then they should definitely get in touch, because we're always looking for. We're essentially a grant-giving organization, so the truth is we have the cash coming in from the business. Mm-hmm. Actually, the endeavor is finding the right people that are out there changing the world in terms of tackling the hungry. And if if any of your listeners have got great charities or know of great charities doing that, I'd ask them to check the website, and we're very clear and transparent about the funding criteria. And if you read it and it's a match, then get in touch. That would be super helpful.
Oh, well, I'm so glad you clarified that. And so that people who may be a good fit can look into how they can make a bigger impact in the world. Richard, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us here today.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. It was really lovely talking to you.
Well, thank you, Richard. It's been such a pleasure to spend this time with you and, of course, to talk about your new book, If I Could Tell You Just One Thing. The book is available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and all major retailers. I was recently in Scotland on special assignment and had the pleasure of enjoying innocent drinks along my trip. Gosh, I wish they would bring them to the U.S. They are fabulous. Make sure to check out innocentfoundation.org and innocentdrinks.co.uk. Well, we're at the end of our time today. I would like to thank everyone for tuning in. You've been listening to Moments with Marianne. And remember, make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary. A recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Moments with Marianne airs every Thursday, Friday, and Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Mountain Time. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmarianne.com for more information.